Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2017 State of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. I'm Karen Marangel. I'm the Dean of the College and a professor of mathematics and statistics, and it's my pleasure to welcome all of you here this morning. I do want to let you know that we are videotaping the event today, so you all know. At this year's State of the College, we will be highlighting the exciting work that many of you have been doing identifying research themes, cross-disciplinary research themes throughout the college. I am so proud of the work that many of you have done around these research themes and so excited to share the work with all of you today. Today, you are going to hear from your colleagues about these cross-disciplinary discussions that they have been engaged in over the last 2 summers. You will have the opportunity to learn more today about the research clusters or research themes, and then decide if you want to join in any of the discussions as they move forward. But first, we have a few guests with us today who are going to say a few words. And it is my pleasure right now to introduce our interim provost and professor of sociology, Margaret Everett.
Thanks so much, Karen. Hi, everyone. Good morning. It is really great to be with you today, especially to be at my home college and to be with my people. So thank you so much for making a little time on your busy agenda to let me welcome you and say a few words. I always appreciate the opportunity to say a special welcome to our new faculty. Are there new faculty here? Oh, great. I think this is welcome. I think the work that you're doing around these research clusters is really a great opportunity for new faculty to connect to other colleagues, not only in their own departments, but in departments across the college and across the university. And I just wish you all the best in your journey at Portland State. I've been at Portland State for 21 years, so I can tell you I have found it to be a wonderful place with a wonderful group of colleagues. And I hope the same for you. I just am going to say a few words. I'm going to try to keep it brief because I think you've got really important things to talk about today and to work on. I really want to recognize Karen and Todd for the great work that they've done and their leadership to promote and support research in your college, in our college. It's really exciting to see the work that's coming out of all of these discussions. It's great to see that it's really been a faculty-driven process to identify existing and potential areas of research focus and to bring faculty together across disciplines. So I just look forward to learning what I can do to continue supporting that work. I think it's terrific. I want to note that, and I think you've heard from our new president, Qureshi, that his emphasis on research, especially cross-disciplinary research, and I think as the president leads some discussions about emerging areas of research distinction for the university, class, faculty, and students will really make key contributions to that discussion. And I think all the work that you're doing today is really setting yourselves up for some excellent contributions to those important discussions. It really is exciting to see the contributions that class is already making to cross-disciplinary academic programs in addition to research. And one that I've been really excited to see, and this is just one example, I can't mention all the good work that you're doing, but the contributions that class is making to the discussions about community resilience and emergency management, I think is really exciting, and your partnership with Coupa and other colleges at the university. I have really been fascinated, surprised, and delighted to see how much strength we have in those areas at the university already, from geography, geology, anthropology, sociology, psychology, public administration, engineering. It's really, I think, a great opportunity for us to sort of punch above our weight, if you will, to develop a program that's really unique and that we have a genuine strength in. And I think out of those efforts will also come some fantastic research endeavors, and I'm thrilled to see that that's one of your themes, and it's certainly a very timely topic and one with clear societal need and importance. Let's see. Also, have been very interested to learn about the work of the Center for Life in Extreme Environments. I just think that's another really exciting center and an exciting area of research that, again, we're in a position to do some really unique things and to really make a mark nationally. I have been working over the last year with Karen. We had the privilege of visiting a Brazilian partner institution in Sao Paulo, and in those discussions we really realized some areas of mutual expertise among our faculty and research interests. And so we have a group of faculty from class who are headed to Sao Paulo that OIA, as International Affairs, has helped support, and Karen has helped us work to identify and convince them to participate in a research workshop. Jason Podrobsky, Paul Lokith, and Max Nielsen-Pincus, and I don't know if Max and Paul are here. Hello. So wishing you well, and I think you all know my interest in internationalization and international research, and really would love to hear from you and work with you on other projects like this to connect our faculty and their research expertise with researchers at institutions around the world. I think some really cool things are going to come out of that. The workshop that I'm mentioning now is going to focus on weather extremes, climate modeling, extreme environments. And one of the things I'm perhaps most pleased about that project is that our faculty are taking graduate students with them to present their research. And it's terrific to find any opportunity to give our graduate students to develop as researchers and scholars. And so I thank you all for that work. I know there are many other examples of faculty really supporting undergraduate and graduate research. I wanted to say a couple things about cross-disciplinary research, and I imagine I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but it holds such promise, as you know, and importance for working towards solutions to grand problems and challenges of global social and environmental change. I have found in my own experience that engaging in cross-disciplinary research can really stimulate and re-energize a research agenda. And so I encourage you in that regard. I did a little bit of reading about cross-disciplinary research and the challenges and opportunities. And I just wanted to share with you one article that I found. It was in the Journal of Biological Computation, which I didn't know was a thing. Now I know that's a thing. I thought that was very interesting. Anyway, it was talking about cross-disciplinary research, and one of the things they said really resonated with me, which is that you should prepare for a deluge of new ideas and approaches when you're working with colleagues from other disciplines. And I loved a few of the things they pointed out that, again, really resonated with my own experience, that it's not just new ideas, but when you're engaging with colleagues from other disciplines, you often have to learn a new nomenclature and language and find a common language with which to speak. I mean, even as this article was pointing out, the meaning of model is, what's a model and what do we mean by modeling is very different from one field to another. The order of authorship is quite different from one discipline to another. The reward structure, the formatting of data. So, this is all to acknowledge that there are challenges along with rewards, and we hope that the challenges are interesting and not insurmountable. One of the things that I really want to underscore and appreciate about what CLASS is doing is all the work to create research opportunities, as I mentioned, for undergraduate and graduate students. It's been a pleasure to learn about the work that Linda George is doing. I saw her here earlier. There you are. Hi, Linda. To create research experiences for undergraduates in particular, which I think is really exciting. The real deep involvement, as I learned recently, of class in the Exito project, in the Exito grant. Class actually has the sort of largest share of expenditures and opportunities for students in that grant. So that's fantastic. The work of LSAMP and McNair, the work of the STEM Institute, and all the faculty that are providing opportunities for undergraduates to get research experience. I know in sociology there have been some fantastic projects over the years in that regard. And I think this for me is kind of a focus and a passion for me is what some universities call high impact practices. So research experiences for undergraduates is certainly one. Study abroad, which is another passion of mine, is another one. Internships. There's really good evidence, and again, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, I hope, but there's good evidence that those experiences improve retention and completion rates and can really be transformative for students. And so I look forward to hearing your ideas about how we can continue to provide those opportunities for our students and to scale those up. Let's see. I thought I'd say something about graduate students, which is another area of my experience. And I want to recognize Matt Carlson, who is not here, I don't think, because he's at the bargaining table with our graduate employee union. But I do want to appreciate him for those efforts. And just to mention that work is ongoing. It's important. It's not without its challenges, for sure, as we work to meet our students' expectations while being mindful of the demands on our faculty and staff and the academic units who will be implementing a first contract, and a first contract is particularly challenging. But I also want to say I think this really is, and I mean this genuinely, I think it's a very important step forward for our institution. The contract with the union is an opportunity to regularize our processes, to recognize graduate assistants as employees and to value them as employees, and to improve our compensation of graduate assistants over time so that we can attract the best students to contribute to our research mission and support them in the completion of their degrees. So I look forward to that work moving forward and to meeting that challenge. Finally, I just wanted to also, another thing that I worked on related to graduate students and graduate assistants that I wanted to mention is the work that Applied Linguistics did last year to create a new course, professional development course for graduate teaching assistants. And also the Office of Academic Innovation has done some great work to support teaching assistants and developed a non-credit certificate in collaboration with the Applied Linguistics Department. So I really, really want to just kind of give them a shout out and thank them for that work. I think it's long overdue to provide some more professional development support for our teaching assistants. This is part of their education and part of their professional development, and I'm excited to see those new opportunities moving forward for our students and GAs. So, with that, those were just some highlights I wanted to make a nod to. And again, thank you so much for your time this morning. I wish you well in this important work of identifying and developing your research clusters. And it's great to see you working across the disciplines. And I wish you a great year ahead. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Margaret. Next, I would like to invite to the stage, sorry, I always have a technology thing going on at this event. Next, I would like to invite to the stage Kenny Ma, and I thought that this slide would be appropriate. I skipped through it quickly, but you always know that you can connect via social media with the college and with me, and these are some of the ways that you can do that. Kenny is from University Communications, and he has been, since he arrived at Portland State last year, an incredible advocate for this college and the work that you do. He's behind the scenes. Some of you have worked directly with him, but he's an unsung hero to promote and market the work that all of you do. So I have been incredibly grateful for Kenny's attention to our college and the work that he's doing for the university. And he's here to share a little bit with us about some of the initiatives ahead with University Communications. Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you, Dean, for that warm introduction. And let me start by saying I am no hero. I'm just the guy behind the scene, and it's a great team effort. And I love working with class. I love working with you folks. I'm super passionate about research. Fantastic dean, fantastic leadership team. So I'm just really grateful to be here. Just a little bit of background about myself. I have been at Portland State for a little over a year. Before this, I was at the University of Texas. I moved here from Austin. And then prior to that, I was at the University of California system. I worked for one of their national labs. I've spent most of my career working at major universities promoting research. I've worked with research offices, industrial partnerships, technology transfer, commercialization, and just fortunate to work with a lot of wonderful faculty about research. So research is a huge passion of mine. One of the reasons I got into higher education is to work with faculty research because new discoveries are one of the most amazing things we produce at our universities. So I want to start my talk by maybe having you folks go to the middle of your table. There's some handouts that says Media and Public Relations Team. If you all want to just take one of those handouts, it'll be very useful for you. And I can email this to you as well, but basically it's all the services that our team provides. And we have a robust services that I want to go over with you folks. And just first and foremost, to know that we are the public relations team, the media team. We're not marketing, so our services are free. So I know that's great. And it's also low bandwidth too, because I know you guys are very busy teaching, educating young minds, producing world-class research. So we want to make this very beneficial, a very high rate of return on your investment, and we're going to do most of the work, and we just need your buy-in. And our goal is to get you publicity for your incredible research. So, just want to go through the list of the things that we do. Not sure if you guys have seen this yet, but I went ahead and put the URL on that sheet. But we just started the Psu Research Tumblr. And then we actually stole the idea from my old place, the University of California. So the UC system, the way they promote their faculty research, they have so much great research stories to tell, is they use what's called a research Tumblr. And the Tumblr is a social media platform to get out information, but get that information out in a very visual way. It could be a photo of yourself, of your research, you in the field. It could be a video. It could be a book chapter you publish. It could be a new paper. It could be a new hire you made. We want to tell all those news. And what's important, our new president, Dr. Shrestri, as the provost just said, he's a brilliant researcher himself. He's very interested in research. And this allows us to tell your story and to easily share it with him. And again, the things that we want to make this very easy for you. For the Research Tumblr, you could either send your information to Sean McGillis, or you could just self-serve. There's a self-input mode right on the Tumblr. You could just submit it. It's a very short thing, about 100 words, and again, need some kind of image. And again, it could be you have an upcoming paper. We want that on the Tumblr. You went and spoke in Seattle about your research or anywhere. You attended a conference. We want to know about that. You made a new hire. Grants, you got a new grant, you published a chapter, you won an award, we want to give you credit, and this Tumblr is read widely within the whole university, so we want to give you the credit you deserve and the visibility for your work amongst your own colleagues and amongst your peers at the entire university. And the other thing that's exciting is we could share this externally for anybody. We could send it to a sponsor of yours if they want to see it, easy. We could send it to the news media. We could send it to industrial partners. So I think this is going to be a great tool for you folks if you're interested in using. And again, it's going to be very low bandwidth stuff, so shouldn't be spending more than 5 minutes on this. The other thing we just started too, and Marilyn Makowitz, your own colleague, she's going to kick this off next Tuesday. So again, we're in the business of borrowing ideas from people. So we borrowed this idea from you folks and from the dean. You're doing these amazing talks that I've attended that you guys have done and have just been blown away. Your class brown bag lunch theories. So our office, we borrowed that idea and we're going to scale it up university-wide. And we're calling it the monthly PSU research rounds. Same idea as what you're doing the brown bag talks. You're presenting, you're taking questions during lunchtime. But this, you're going to get a much bigger audience. You're going to get your peers in class, and you're also going to get your peers throughout the university, and maybe once in a while the president might drop by. So it's a great way. When you take advantage of it, we'll set everything up for you. You just have to say yes, and then we'll get you a big stage in front of your whole peers. And the idea of that really is to raise awareness of your work, but also to form some cross collaboration. To encourage more multidisciplinary research. And we hope that's a good step forward in accomplishing that. And then again, I've put contact information on every one of these services we provide so you could directly contact that person. And another thing we've done, and we've done it with a lot of your peers here, Paul Loiketh, we've done it with him, we've done it with Dara Schiffer, done it with Jeremy Spoon. Really great talks we've done with Professor Emily Schaefer. It's called the Reddit Ask Me Anything Science Series, and I'm not if you guys are not familiar, Reddit is a big social media platform, and it's for experts to talk about their things. And Reddit has many categories, but we're only interested in the science category. And the science categories allows professors, researchers, and experts to talk about their research, talk about their papers. Talk about basic science, talk about social science. We're very interested in getting you guys on Reddit because Reddit Science has an audience of almost 17 million people. And how it benefits you. Sponsors are on Reddit Science, federal agencies are on Science, Reddit Science, state agencies, corporate sponsors. They want to know what the latest and greatest is on university research. Your peers from other universities use it regularly. So you have other faculty, other researchers on it, other scientists. Our students use it, potential students use it, and the news media uses it. So it gets a large traction from audiences. And I can give you an example. When Emily spoke about her research about surnames on her publication, there was 500 questions that was asked in an hour. And you only have to answer 499. I mean, it's not bad, right? No, just kidding. So that just shows the popularity of her talk, the thousands of people that tuned in, and it was just an hour, and you do this basically on your laptop, the comfort of your own office. And basically, it's the excitement you generate to a huge audience, new national audience. And if you get, she got 500 questions, of course you're not going to answer all 500. You pick and choose what you want to answer. If you answer 2 questions, you answer 2 questions. If you want to answer 10, you answer 10. But these are questions that get your visibility out there. They promote yourself to a community that I think you're going to find valuable. These are audiences you want to reach out to. So hope you guys can take advantage of that. And the other thing we do is whenever you have a paper, we would love to know about it. When your paper gets accepted, let us know. What we do is we take your paper, we pitch it to a national pool of science writers. These are people that just care about science in your areas. And we use this service. It's called Eureka Alert. When you tell us a paper is coming, we'll literally just put it on that database. They'll blast it out to thousands of science writers, everywhere from the New York Times to Popular Science to everybody. So every science writer gets a copy of your paper. So we would love to help you do that. All you have to do is tell us, hey, guys, I got a paper coming. And then we will pitch that for you, and we will also put that on the research Tumblr for you. And then we've achieved a lot of success. We've worked with Andrew Fountain on his glaciers paper in Montana. We've got a lot, we got CNN, we got Washington Post, got a lot of major, New York Times, a lot of major coverage for that. So, we want to apply our expertise for you folks, and we want to promote your research. And the other thing that we've done is we've partnered with Portland Public Schools. We started what's called a virtual science lab, and we've done it with Ken Stedman, my favorite virus hunter, and we've done it with Professor Fountain. And what it is basically it's doing a virtual talk from your office, your lab, and it goes to a PPS high school class, and they're interested in science or STEM or something that's related to your field. And the great thing about that is, again, very short, just an hour, is you're serving the community. It's part of our mission to let knowledge serve. You're also promoting your research, and you're reaching out to young minds who are very interested in STEM, who are probably going to be interested in PSU after they hear you present. And it's a great way for us to connect with the community and to young minds and encourage people to pursue science and STEM. So those are the services that we provide, and again, we hope to meet you folks. We're always happy to meet you guys individually, to have coffee with you folks. We really want to talk about your research. We want to promote you. The other thing too is we want to promote your grad students. We know you're in your labs and your grad students do a lot of work. These people deserve a lot of credit too. So we want to use our platform, our services, to promote yourself and your hardworking students. And with Catherine McNur, we did an amazing project where we promoted what her students are doing, her sister students are doing to tell the history of the city and the neighborhoods through trees and the tree canopy project. And her grad students were brilliant, and actually every single TV station in the city and the Oregon covered that story. So it was just a great tribute to the work she's doing and to the work her students are doing. So, it's a win-win for everybody. So we want more opportunities like that. And, we've worked with countless of other people in the audience too, and I forget to mention your name, I do apologize. But we appreciate your help, we appreciate your partnership, and we look forward to more opportunities in the future. And again, thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much, Kenny. And the Research Tumblr, I do encourage you to check that out. I look at that Tumblr now twice a week. And so this week, I already saw that we had a new paper published in Russian. We have a new, yes, thank you, Bill. We have a new open textbook developed from our French faculty. We had a new major NIH grant landed in chemistry. And we had a couple of really good papers coming out of environmental science and geography over the past several weeks. So I do look at that. It's a way for me to keep up on the work that you're all doing. Of course, you're always invited to send stuff to me. But the Research Tumblr has been really incredible. So I wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to hear about the ways that we're working behind the scenes to promote the great research that you're doing, because it does mean so much. So before I get started into the bulk of my comments, which are not going to take an extensively long time, because the event today is really set to turn it over to your colleagues so that they can update you and you can hear more about the research clusters. But I do want to thank the Dean's Office staff. If you're here, just stand up, please. Everybody left, or they're not going to stand. It was an all hands. Chris, thank you, in the back. Todd up here in the front. Delise is over here. Sarah, where are you? Sarah, Sarah, Angela. Oh, they're in the back table. Sarah, Lisa, and Angela, thank you all for your work organizing this event. It was an all hands on deck process to get everything set up for today, so thank you so very much. Last year, at our State of the College, I introduced the idea of our research themes or research clusters, and I will use those words interchangeably. I began at that time last year by describing our collective state of mind 3 years ago when I started this position and when our future as one college of liberal arts and sciences was uncertain. When we asked questions about whether there was a common theme or themes that connected our work across the college. At that time, 3 years ago, we said yes, there is value in staying together as a college of liberal arts and sciences, and interdisciplinarity was a really big part of that. And last year, we said, yes, there's value in really doubling down to identify our research strengths and organize ourselves around those themes. During the last academic year, we completed our first cluster hire in the theme of environmental extremes. We hired 8 outstanding scholars to join our college. Sorry. And I'm going to I'm going to project them on the screen behind me, and you also have a handout on your table. I am thrilled that these amazing faculty across the departments of biology, communication, English, geography, mathematics and statistics, and physics join our exceptional faculty already doing work in the area of environmental extremes. The clustering hiring process was a really interesting one. And I encourage you to talk to those departments who took advantage of that this past year to understand their experiences, and the colleagues who are now here joining us in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. This year, the faculty in environmental extremes will be collaborating to plan new projects and develop a vision for their work moving forward. And as you remember, I really wanted this to be a bottom-up approach. So I'm not putting constraints on what it is that the cluster faculty do together. I'm not saying you need to develop a center. I'm not saying you need to go after a major this or a major that. I really need to understand from the faculty, what is it going to take to further the work that you're doing and to continue to collaborate to solve the most challenging problems that are facing us today in the area of environmental extremes. So this year, the faculty who are already excited and on board and eager to work together are going to be working that out. Before I move on to say more about the rest of our research themes, I also want to acknowledge all of our new faculty joining us this year. We hired 16 tenure track and 13 full-time instructional faculty, and the names of those faculty who are not in the cluster are on the screen behind me. And we can once again welcome our new faculty. If you could just raise your hands or stand up, and welcome to the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. So Margaret, thank you for giving us your perspective on the importance of cross-disciplinary or interdisciplinary collaboration. And like research themes, research clusters, I'm going to use those words interchangeably. I recognize that they have different meanings in different venues, but I'm using them interchangeably today. So why does interdisciplinarity matter so much to me and to this college? Well, you as faculty have stressed the importance of opportunities to collaborate across disciplines, to further your research, and to innovate in curricular space. I have personally experienced the power of interdisciplinarity, both in my own research, which in itself was interdisciplinary, but also as a program officer at the National Science Foundation. It's been about 10 years since I've been at the NSF, but 10 years ago, we were funding proposals that included interdisciplinary teams. We were looking at that time for those ideas that were really pushing the boundaries of what we were doing in science, and it was happening where disciplines were coming together. That has not waned. That is still a strong theme at both the NSF and many, many other federal funding agencies, both in the sciences, in the humanities, in the social sciences. We know this, that in order to make progress on the most vexing problems facing us, whether they are social, or ecological, or environmental, or health-related, or technological, the way to make impactful and significant advances is by collaborating across disciplines. And when I say across disciplines, I mean all of the disciplines represented in this college. We all need to hear each other's perspectives. It's at the heart of what an engaged College of Liberal Arts and Sciences is all about. collaborating across the disciplines. And I believe that it's critical to our future here at Portland State. It's what makes us, as a university and as a college of liberal arts and sciences, distinct and competitive. We need to take advantage of the fact that our university is still young, we're still nimble, and we still thrive on creativity. Yes, we have silos. We're working to take away the boulders that inhibit us collaborating across those silos, but we're not so siloed that we don't talk. There's a lot of great cross-disciplinary work going on that I've had no part of supporting. That has happened naturally and organically. Margaret pointed to some of those examples in her notes. The research communities that develop when we come together to collaboratively solve our most challenging problems provide tangible benefits, and I want to outline some of what I think those tangible benefits are. They provide faculty access to postdocs, PhD, and graduate students, especially for those faculty who in this college do not regularly have opportunities to interact with those individuals, those advanced graduate students and beginning scholars. We don't have a lot of postdocs in this college, but we do have some. They can and should be part of the work that we're all doing together collaboratively. As you all know, we have some doctoral programs, but not every faculty member in this college has access to doctoral students, but we could. Similarly, for graduate students at the master's level. In collaborative research communities, students also have access to training in methods and techniques outside of their disciplines of study, as do we as individual scholars learn about the methods and techniques of our peers in other disciplines. We bring the multiple perspectives that are so needed to bear onto problems that lead to more robust and innovative solutions. And frankly, funding agencies are wanting this and needing this at this point. And then you're feeling a sense of camaraderie with your colleagues who are also passionate about these topics, but who might not be in your home department. As a math faculty here, I don't think I left Neuberger Hall for 6 years. And I stayed on the 3rd floor. And then I found out that, there are people in other departments who are also interested in the work that I was doing, and we had some commonalities. It's hard for us, I'm recognizing that it's hard for us to get out of our daily work that is intensive. But when we can and do, we have a community around us that can really help lift our work. And then finally, probably what you've all been waiting to hear, resources. This year, we are supporting the work of the research clusters with modest resources, but next year, we will invest more funds in supporting that work. And part of this, I'm going to talk about how we're going to do that. So as many of you know, I made a decision at the end of last academic year to pause the hiring in the college this year. And I made that decision for 2 reasons. First was to provide us some time to reflect on and think about our needs, especially as related to the research clusters, but of course within your departments. The second, a very pragmatic reason, was to save up money so that we can further invest in the work of the research clusters and have funds to continue to attract world-class faculty. We have been so lucky in the faculty that have joined us over the past several years. I want to continue our trajectory of attracting the best and the brightest faculty to our college. And we can do that, but I needed a little space to save up some money to do that. Many of you will have questions about how the hires will resume. I'm working with my team in the dean's office. I'm working on the details, and I'll be sharing those details and getting your input a little bit later this term. In a short bit, I'm going to introduce Dr. Todd Rosenstiel. He's our Associate Dean for Research and Graduate Programs, and he's going to introduce the next part of our program. But before I do that, I want to plant a seed with you. And this is a seed that right now is not directly connected to research, but I think could be in the future. So those of you who have heard me talk over the last few years, you know that I've been placing a lot of emphasis on research in the college. I'm doing that because I believe so much in the research mission here, because I feel lucky as your dean that I have a faculty who is so highly engaged in research. You make my life so easy in that way. And because I know that doing great work in this research space, with more attention to it, we can really lift that work and make it even greater. But because I talk about research a lot, doesn't mean that I'm not paying attention to or don't care about or I'm not thinking about teaching and what happens in our classrooms. I do care about that deeply. I've had the fortunate opportunity to sit in on some of your classes the last year or two. I'm going to continue to do that this year. I meet with students regularly. I don't like to harp on some of the things that I know you know. Our enrollment has been declining. You know that. It has been for the past 4 years. But the numbers that I really care about, the numbers that I want to think about with you, are our retention numbers. So our enrollment, I know, will increase if we do a better job retaining students. And I want to just talk to you just for a moment about the retention numbers and why those worry me sometimes, a lot of times. Retention of our freshman students is a little over 70%. So that means that more than 1 out of every 4 students who starts in our college as a freshman does not return their sophomore year. I don't think that's good. We can do better. For our transfer students, our retention numbers are better, about 80%, but that still puts 1 in 5 transfer students not returning to PSU after starting in our college. Now, you know and I know that there are many reasons why students choose to stop out or drop out. Sometimes it's financial, sometimes it's academic preparation. Our students here at Portland State lead complicated lives. There are work and family obligations that sometimes become too much for them. There are many, many reasons. And that's why turning around our retention rates is not going to be a silver bullet solution. There's going to be many solutions. So I want you to be observant this year. I want you to think about where you see your students struggling, and think about what we can do to help our students in this college stay at Portland State. What do we need to do to help them be successful here? I want to hear your ideas about this. I think that there could be ideas that are connected to the work that we're doing in the research clusters, but frankly, I haven't thought through all of that and don't have that figured out. But retention is a big issue for me, and it's important for me to share that with you today. I'm going to be working with your department chairs this year to gather ideas about retention and think about the sorts of things that we can do. And these may be things like, do we need a bridge program to bridge students who are going to attend school here as freshmen, but who we know might not be academically prepared to take the rigorous coursework that we're offering? Do we need to do something outside of class to help support students? Do we need to give micro grants? Because we do have some funds to do that. Do we need to get that information in the hands of students? Or are there other ideas that you all have, and I know that there are other ideas that you all have that we can and should be doing. But I encourage you to give this some deep thought and then to share that with me or your chair. As our freshman population increases, I'm just going to leave you with this, and our transfer population decreases, and those are our trends right now, it's especially important to understand how we increase our freshman retention rate. Of course, we want to continue to focus on both, but our enrollment trends are showing an increase in freshmen and a decrease in transfers. So, now on to our research clusters. I want to provide you with a little bit of background about these clusters for those of you who are not familiar. During the summers of 2016 and 2017, nearly 50 of you participated in a series of conversations. First, identifying our research strengths in the college, and that was the summer of 2016, and then this past summer, further unpacking and streamlining those strengths. What's emerged are 6 research themes or research clusters. And these are projected on the screen behind me, and there are descriptions of these, more fleshed out descriptions on the table in front of you. Todd and Chris have been instrumental in convening, organizing, and assisting the groups to meet around these clusters, and I thank them again for their work doing that. And I thank all of the faculty who have participated to date in shaping these discussions. It's not easy to do work in new ways, and you have been energetic, excited, bringing amazing ideas to the table. It's been a thrill to hear about the work and to engage with you in some of the work myself. Todd's going to provide an overview. So what's coming up next in our program? Todd's going to provide an overview of the research clusters and introduce your colleagues who are going to talk in more detail, about 3 to 5 minutes each, about the individual research clusters. And then Todd's going to give you direction about the remainder of what we're going to do the remainder of the morning, but basically you're going to have an opportunity to sit and talk with the clusters that may be of interest to you. And at the very end, we'll come together very briefly to talk about next steps. One thing I want to point out about these clusters is that they're at different levels of evolution. And so I would point to, I will start at the bottom with the Undergraduate STEM Education Research Cluster. This is something that was actually set in motion before I even started my job as dean. This really launched off the ground with a grant from the Howard Hughes Medical Institute and brought in research faculty, research education faculty in biology and chemistry who joined faculty in geology, in physics, in mathematics and statistics. And that group has collaborated on several grants, and they can tell you about the work that they've been able to do together. It's also led to some incredible improvements in our introductory courses in biology, chemistry, physics, and so forth. The Environmental Extremes Cluster, kind of moving from the bottom up, that is a cluster in which we've now hired, so it's a little bit further ahead. So the faculty had gone through the process of writing a collaborative job ad that went out last year, that we have now all these amazing faculty who have joined us through that cluster, and they're going to be launching into their work this year. I'm going to bump up to the top, the Pathways Towards Social Justice, Building Community Capacity, and Community Resilience in Social Ecological Systems. Those clusters have been meeting for the past 2 summers, so they're a bit further ahead, but have not done a hire yet. And then the Computational Complexity Sciences cluster is the newest. This is a cluster that formed this summer to think about the computational needs across many of our disciplines. And so it's the one that's at its infancy in terms of thinking about all these clusters. Not that any one of these is even a teenager yet. But I feel that's important framing for you to understand that these are all at different places and spaces in terms of their evolution. And that's exciting. It's exciting to see what's going to take shape. So I'm now going to turn the microphone over to Todd. Todd, thank you so much for leading all of this incredibly important work. And Todd's going to lead us into the next phase.
Good morning, everyone. This is a good crowd. So my name's Todd Rosenstiel. I'm the Associate Dean of Research and Grad Programs. If you don't know me in the college, I know many of you. If I don't know you, I'm really interested in knowing you, so please come talk to me. As a kudos to sort of Karen's honest commitment to research and grad program and scholarship broadly across the college, she partly created this position, which didn't exist before. So this is the first time in a long time a college of our size has anyone who's had the bandwidth to sort of even have conversations with you as faculty to understand how do we unpack and support scholarship and research in the college. That's an important contribution to this. So I like a challenge, and I agreed to sort of help lead this challenge, which is how can we create new structures and processes to just help us to maybe think about how we can grow and mature differently as a college around research and scholarship. 2 years ago, when we started this in the summertime, the very first conversations we had, just for framing, was around this concept of environmental extremes. But it really wasn't there. It was really the observation that we had 8 or 9 departments at the time, which we realized had some positions coming up. And hey, could we think a little differently about the way we hired? I will tell you, as a very green associate dean in that position, and mostly a green professor at PSU, I've only been here 10 years, I had a lot of senior people look at me and say, that's not possible. There's no way you're going to get 8 departments to come together, right, to agree that there's potential gain by sort of hiring in with one cluster. Well, after many, many meetings, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears by folks in this audience, we got there, and I think I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to find a new path forward and realize there is real competitive scholarship research advantage by working together as a college of integrated arts and science. And this office is very much committed to doing that. The grand challenges, as both Karen and Margaret suggested, are going to require the integration of the humanities, the social sciences, and natural sciences, period. And even if we're not used to working in that space, it's imperative that we train the next generation, the graduate students and the undergraduates, to make sure they're prepared to work in that space, because that is going to be the expectation. As a personal note, I was surprised this morning when I opened up my email, sent to some colleague, one, I'm not sure, maybe Ken Stedman in biology, Nsf. So many of us, work under the Nsf umbrella, Nsf Directorate of Biology, which is a huge directorate, and it's one of the largest funders, actually, of NSF work in the college, made an announcement this morning that I was shocked to see, and that announcement is they're totally changing their funding process in terms of proposals. They're getting rid of proposal deadline dates. We used to work under, here's a date you have to submit. They've scrapped it totally, and this is a big, big directorate. And then I looked carefully as to what's the framing. Why would they do this? And basically the wording was pretty straightforward. We are changing the core proposal process to promote interdisciplinary research which crosses scales, disciplines, and various boundaries, because they're looking for more complex, more collaborative, more creative, and more interdisciplinary research. The funding agencies ourselves are forcing our hand to think differently, which is great. And although some divisions were there 10 years ago, biology was not, but they are today. So things are changing, so that's very positive. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about what we're up to today, because really what we hear today is many of you have been involved in these conversations, but there's many of you have, maybe this is the first time you're actually hearing about these research cluster conversations. You're trying to understand what's happening in the college. So we wanted to provide a time to basically allow spokespeople from the various groups to come up and introduce the concepts. This is really kind of an open invitation to participate, right? We're really trying to open up the doors now. We've had these smaller summertime conversations to the faculty of the college at whole to say, hey, these are conversations going on. If you are interested, please participate, right? And I think that's generally the framing that we're gonna go through on that case. So I think what we're gonna do is on each sheet, there's a green sheet on all your tables that has the background. Please have that in case you're wondering what these clusters are. A bit of framing. I'm gonna allow spokespeople, and I'll introduce them for each of the groups to come up and talk. These are all faculty from around college who've been helping us, and thank you so much to all of you who've agreed to do this, to kind of give us some framing of what these groups are talking about and maybe where they're heading. And as Karen mentioned, we have some which are very much in their infancy and some which are very much out of the gate. It's an exciting time. This is going to sort of really distinguish us, I think, honestly, at the national scale in terms of how we can reframe the way we think about collaborative work, honestly, in a college of our size. So I'm very excited about that. On Monday, you can expect basically something in your email, which is going to be a Google form, which will be pushed out to all the faculty in college. And it's basically a very easy click box Google form. Based on what you've heard today, the conversations you've heard today, what you've heard from Karen, Margaret, and myself, or seen on this green sheet, are you interested in getting any more information about or participating in these groups? And it's a simple yes, yes, yes kind of thing. And then we will make sure, as we work through the groups, that we push out your contact information to people so that you'll be invited to meetings and invited to everything that's coming up, okay? So we didn't want to make you commit to anything today or sign anything in sheet. It's give you some time to think about what you might be interested in. I was amazed. Again, I've been here 10 years. I was a biology professor. I still am a biology professor, run a research lab. I mostly lived in SRTC in the biology department. Until I moved into this position, I had no idea the breadth, the depth, and the scale of interaction that exists amongst the humanities, social sciences, natural sciences, and class. And I think part of this process, too, is to give us an opportunity to reform creating a culture in our college that supports conversations around research and scholarship. That's so critical. We need to spend more time talking about really big ideas and big problems together collaboratively. We need to support that and encourage it, not just amongst us as researchers, but amongst our graduate students and our undergraduates. And I think this process, as you'll hear from some of these faculty, I think, at least in some ways, has led to this observation that, oh my God, I had no idea you were in my college? In terms of methodologies or instrumentation or whatever it is. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to really be proud of this large integrated college we're in. Okay, so with that, I'm going to give the floor, and I will say one other thing. Although we have six clusters, so I'm going to allow everyone to just do 3 to 5 minutes, or as brief as possible, to introduce who you are and what the cluster is thinking about, so you get an idea from faculty what we're thinking. Then we're going to move into the next phase, which is, if you notice on the tables, there's little placards on each top table. This is going to be a sort of a very quick meet and greet, 15-minute speed dating sort of activity, all right? And so we're going to start. We have a timekeeper, and I would, if after what you've heard, you're interested in hearing more about these groups, line up with one of the areas, and we'll show a map of where they are afterwards so you can see where they're at. Go to the group, introduce yourself, talk about your research, see what you may have to contribute, and then at 15 minutes we'll let you know if you want to stay in that group and continue that conversation. But if you want to move around and hear what another group is doing, then that's a good time to do it. We'll probably have time to do that about 3 times, just to kind of mix and greet and begin to meet hopefully some new colleagues. I will also say, these are where we are today in 2017 for research themes and clusters. We know that not everyone in the college is going to fit into one of these sort of scholarship buckets, right? We acknowledge that. So you'll also notice where Karen is sitting, and I'll be there. We're also opening up tables that are called other opportunities, because one of the things we need to understand, and we both want to hear from you, is what are we missing? So not only are we missing up here, but also say some of you have a scholarship portfolio who maybe you're really used to working by yourself at a desk writing, right? And you don't really have much interaction in that collaborative space. That's an important type of scholarship. We also need to know how to support and sustain that type of scholarship in our college as well, right? So it's an opportunity at the other opportunities table to have a bit of a voice between Karen and myself to say, what are we missing? And then how else can we support your scholarship and research in the college, okay? So those are the different, basically 7 buckets you can jump along. It won't be a duck, duck, goose opportunity, but it'd be kind of fun if it was. So I think with that, we'll get going. And then again, Monday, expect a sort of a Google form that'll just come out to you in an email space, kind of condensing everything you've just learned today, and hopefully you will be excited and be interested in participating in this. And even if you're not, we are always in the dean's office to hear about what's going on in research and scholarship space, so please reach out to myself if you ever want to chat, because I want to know what you're up to. Okay, so with that, I'm going to do the first introduction. We're going to go right down the list. So I'll introduce Winston Grady Willis over here, the director of School of Gender, Race, and Nation, who's going to come up for a few minutes and talk about pathways to social justice. Now, I do want to say one important thing. Many of these groups have large numbers of committed faculty working in these clusters, and we've just gotten to the point of trying to nominate. The group has suggested, hey, in this case, Winston, why don't you be our front person? But there are many, many others in this audience who are very much involved in this process and will be helping lead the conversations, okay? So, Winston.
Thank you very much, Todd. Good morning, everybody. Like several of you, I'm a little under the weather, so I'm going to be even briefer than I planned. So I am the director of the School of Gender, Race, and Nations. As most of you know, I think, that's the school that is sort of the umbrella for 4 autonomous units. And it's important to mention the units because historically, within the context of the academy in the US, these units like them, have been engaged in multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary work for decades. So that's Black studies, women, gender, and sexuality studies, Chicano, Latino studies, and indigenous nation studies. And so the conversation this summer has been really good. If you actually took part in the Pathways to Social Justice conversations this summer, could you just throw your hands in the air just so folks in the room can see you? The importance of this is that the folks who engage in these conversations are literally from every division of the college. And the one thing I want to stress is that conversations were often contested, which is a good thing, right? There were contestations around how do you define the term. Okay, there are folks in SGRN who think that the term itself is problematic, right? It needs to be interrogated, okay? There are issues around, particularly for those folks who are really inextricably connected to work in the humanities, why are there always these inequities in terms of funding for us as scholars, okay? So these were some of the issues that we talked about. So despite the contestations, there's definitely movement forward. Our steering committee is actually meeting next week, okay? And there's a sort of a tentative plan. We hope by the end of this term that there'll be a brown bag event in which individuals across the disciplines will be able to share their work in some depth. Next term, we're really looking forward to having, within this broader context of this Pathways to Social Justice, specific, if you will, mini clusters around more specified areas where folks are engaged in their research. And then finally, in the spring, in addition, of course, to trying to assemble some job ads, There is going to be an effort to actually launch a symposium that will bring community partners together with interested scholars to talk about work in social justice. And here's where I'm going to end. These times, this moment in the world, right, speaks, if no other time in recent memory has, to the need for folks, not only rhetorically, not only to the work that many of us do as activists on the ground, but as researchers, as folks engaged in rigorous, cutting-edge research that speaks truth to power, right, and is willing to interrogate fundamental issues of power. It's really important for us to do this work, and there are a number of us who are excited about it. The specific Pathways to Social Justice table is in the back. There are several of us. If we're blessed to need some extra tables, we'll absolutely take part in those conversations. Thank you.
Thanks, Winston. Up next would be Alex Sager, Chair of the Philosophy Department, who's going to talk about the Building Community Capacity Cluster.
Terrific. Thanks, Todd. It's a real pleasure to represent the Building Community Capacity Cluster. And I think what we found when we started these talks 2 years ago is that we gradually as a group coalesced around the topic of migration. And when we started these talks, a lot of people sort of stepped back and said, well, my research doesn't have anything to do with migration, or my department doesn't really research this. But as we continued the conversations, more and more faculty and more chairs started to see connections to this topic. And I'd like to just share a few things, or a few areas we talked about, and ways in which our strengths actually contribute to this topic. And one thing we talked a fair bit about was environmental migration, which is a huge issue, and it's just going to be more of an issue as the years go by. And of course, Portland State has a long-standing strength in sustainability and the environment. So that was one area we talked about. We talked about migrant rights and immigration policy. Again, a extremely controversial topic. And this obviously builds in our strengths in social justice. And there are many faculty who work on this topic in the university. We talked about multiculturalism and transnationalism. And again, many departments have faculty already doing exciting research on these topics. And I started to list them, and then I realized that my 5 minutes would be up, so I'm not going to, but you know who you are. History. I don't think I'm amiss in saying that the history of the world is history of migration. And you know, it's deeply connected to who we are and where we're going. And so we really think that this cluster, we're building community capacity, we really think there's a lot of potential to bring people together, to start exploring grant opportunities, to start exploring ways in which people from different departments, and the scholarship really needs to be multidisciplinary to be adequate to the topics. So we're really hoping to start getting it off the ground and to start exploring, who we are in the college and the university, and how we can work together to make some progress on this. So I think it's exciting. I think there's a lot of really innovative scholarship in a lot of disciplines, and hope to see you over at our table. We have a sign-up sheet and more information, and come by and chat, and we'd love to see you. Thank you.
Third on the list, Community Resilience and Social Ecological Systems, is Brian Zwick in Philosophy Department. Brian.
Hello. Thank you all for being here. I'm really honored to be here to represent the Research Cluster in Community Resilience and Social Ecological Systems. I'm Brian Zwick. I'm Assistant Professor of Philosophy and University Studies. This research group draws a varied group of faculty from across the college. We have faculty from anthropology, ESM, women's, genders, and sexuality studies, geography, history, and of course, philosophy. And we all have a number of different research interests of our own. We work on things as varied as forest resource management, hydrology, emerging technologies, the history of science, and public engagement with science, the role of science in policy making. But what draws us all together is a sort of shared interest in understanding the complexity of coupled social and ecological systems and the importance and really challenge of supporting the building of resilient communities given the many stressors of our world. So we envision ourselves as a truly interdisciplinary group. We are not getting together just to do one kind of research. What kind of research we want to do together is a big focus of our work this year. Among these questions is just what resilience is, for that matter. As Winston pointed out, many of these terms are contested. Social ecological systems has a long background of research in the environmental sciences, but what exactly a resilient community is a big topic of discussion. So we will be meeting regularly over the year. Our first meeting is next Friday at 10 a.m. Our goal for this year is to narrow our research agenda to try and find a set of topics and projects that we can work on together, and we hope this will culminate in the summer with a series of workshops run by the Toolbox Project at Michigan State University. Of course, we want to participate in the hiring process for next year, but we hope that by the beginning of next academic year, we will have some real things going off the ground, some funded research projects that involve all of us, and hopefully some of you too. So, we will be sitting in the middle, I guess. I think we have 3 tables or something. I don't know, a number of tables. If you'd like to learn more about our research cluster or just introduce yourselves to any of us, please stop by. We will be meeting next Friday for the first time at 10 o'clock in the morning in Kramer 409. Even if you can't make the meeting but like to come to future meetings, just come by and introduce yourselves and give us your contact information. That would be awesome.
So next up is probably the most, the youngest of the cluster conversations, which is really a current framing around computational and complexity science broadly. And the spokesperson for that is Bruno Jedniak. Bruno, I think. And is John Bershaw also coming up? Or maybe just, John Bershaw's here, but I think Bruno's got from math and stats.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. Thank you for the one who attend the cluster and the discussion for letting me speak in their name. Okay, so all right. So we are young. We're still not sure about what should be the main title. It's true that computation is something that came a lot. Complex systems also, and but I think one of the most important things that came out is just discovering what some of us do, and some of the great research, and in particular some research which is really collaborative actually. So our dean said that, and now I'm here and I'm thinking, hey, what I'm doing most of the time is to work alone in my office with one grad student, and this is what I do. But it's not the only thing I'm doing, and what I really want, and I think what we all want, is to kind of turn this into something a little bit different when we get a chance indeed to go at solving some of the really big problems that are in front of us. And, speaking with Dacian here, speaking with Ashley Strake about earthquake, we understand, I think, that it takes a lot to solve these kind of things. And so let me just tell you about earthquake. So how do you do earthquake forecasting? You need to study, along a wide variety of scale in space, in time. You need to have, specialists in physics, specialists in geology, specialists in computing, in data acquisition, data processing, machine learning, and so on. So it's this kind of things, it's huge. It's not just one person that can solve this. And we have that. Some of the people here do that. And one of the ideas is that, hey, there are many other problems where, hey, we are not at this stage. Think about medicine. And all right, maybe it's such kind of collaboration that can solve the open problem in medicine. Think about traffic. The traffic in Portland is pretty bad. Okay, so what about, how do you do to know, for example, if you were to extend the max, how would that actually change you know, the traffic pattern. It's actually a very complex thing and require a lot of people to get there and to understand them. And that's just 2 examples. Okay, so, all right, so we want to contribute to this kind of thinking, and I think the word collaborative was not on our board, but was on our mind. And it's one of the things in which our cluster would like to explore. Okay, and so how are we going to do that? We're going to have some meetings, you know, the first one in fall. I hope we'll be able to organize that. And we'd like also to have some joint seminars, so to invite others to our seminar, but maybe to invite some special speakers that can tell us about what they do outside. And all right, and contribute to the, you know, to the job, the description that will be done, you know, during this spring. All right, I think this is what we got. Thank you.
Okay, next up is the cluster around environmental extremes, and the 2 spokespeople for that are Ken Stedman from biology and Andres Holtz from geography. Captures the breadth of what's covered in environmental extremes.
So I'm not quite sure how we're supposed to do this. I'm not sure I want to thank Todd. No, he said, yes, we've been working on these environmental extremes for years now. I think Andres and I found out about 48 hours ago that we were going to be doing this. So, if that. So just a couple of really quick things. First of all, thanks to Karen for really investing in this. I was being in the Center for Life in Extreme Environments, which is not the same thing as environmental extremes. Just really opening up this whole idea. And so our thoughts here, and we had a slight discussion with Todd about this yesterday, is to try and give you an idea of what the extremes of environmental extremes are, and I think that's why Todd chose us, and say, you may not think what you're doing has anything to do whatsoever with environmental extremes, but we're going to try and convince you that it does. And then come and chat with us over here at these tables a little bit later on. So really briefly, yes, I'm extremely hairy, but that's not what I wanted to talk about. I work on viruses in extreme environments, so very much a reductionist, interested in how these things fit together. You may have seen a picture right at the beginning of a couple of my students, actually undergraduate students and graduate students, out in the fields at a acidic hot spring, trying to figure out what allows life to function under these really, really extreme environments. So that's what I'm doing. I'm happy to chat with any of you about this stuff, but I'm much more interested to hear about what you're doing and how that might actually play into what we're interested in doing here. So I'll pass it over to Andres to continue.
Thanks, and thank you everybody for coming here. As Ken just mentioned, the breadth of the extreme goes from microbes and from very fine scale hot springs all the way to the work that, for instance, we work in our lab from a plot scale, 10 by 10 meters, all the way to subcontinental scales using GIS and remote sensing, looking at annual to monthly data to centennial to millennial trends in climate change. We work on disturbances, wildfires primarily, insect outbreaks, and so on. So it's pretty much an entire microcosmos right here. We also want to give a little bit of the pitch of the Google form that we were brainstorming yesterday, that it would help us, all of us, not only the new ones or the newest ones, to really understand what everybody's doing if we come up with some sort of a heat map that describes 2 simple things. The first one is, what actually are we doing in our lab? What is our main expertise? And secondly, what are the tools, what are the approaches and techniques and methods that we actually use? And if we can include that in the Google form in a way that then we can convince a grad student or an undergrad student to build a fancy, simple, elegant heat map, I think that would be a great place to start. In our case, we already have outstanding new hires that will be meeting this term, but the plan is to use this heat map in order to basically better communicate about what we are actually working on and would like to work on in the future. And I'll be sitting also in one of the tables over there if you have questions. Great.
All right, the final group here is Undergraduate STEM Educational Research, which I think is an inspirational group to me because it also is fundamental research which helps us all be better, more impactful in the classroom. I think that doing our job. So Jack Barbera, chemistry.
All right, so thank you. So before I tell you about the Discipline-Based Education Research Group, or DBER group as we call ourselves, I wanted to note to everybody that I came to PSU because of the efforts that were underway to make such a group like this happen. The fact that the college had efforts aligned to hire faculty and build a cluster like this was a deciding factor in my decision to leave the institution I was tenured at and come to PSU. So in addition to myself, the organizing members of our group are Nancy Price from geology, Ralph Wiedenhorn from physics, and Aaron Shortledge from biology. We are education research faculty with content expertise in our given disciplines, and we use our content expertise along with our training and experience in education research to better understand the teaching and learning within our given disciplines. As a result of funding from the Howard Hughes Medical Institute for a collaborative project started by Gwen Schusterman in chemistry, Lisa Wiesel in women, gender, and sexuality studies, and Ellen Skinner in psychology, Aaron and I were hired into our positions in fall of 2015. Nancy and Ralph were already here at PSU doing education research, and before the fall 2015 term had even started, Nancy assembled all of us to meet and discuss our interests, ideas, excitement for having connections with colleagues in different areas. Thus, our official DBER group, or DBER cluster, was born. Since our inception in fall of 2015, we have hosted 2 to 3 group meetings each term. Our meetings have ranged in size from 6 to 20 participants and have included faculty, postdocs, graduate students, undergraduates, the occasional dean, and associate dean. The meetings have been a way for the group to discuss research methods, literature across our disciplines, and have provided faculty and graduate students a venue to present their research and gather feedback from our group with diverse backgrounds and talents. In addition to these meetings, individual members in our group have hosted outside DBER researchers for departmental seminars and workshops, and we advertise these to the group, and this has produced much broader participation in usually narrow discipline-specific activities. To date, we have 63 members subscribed to our Google group, and it sounds like we may have more after this Google form comes out on Monday. Members come from all of our representative disciplines from the organizing committee, as well as from sociology, from psychology, from math education, and from engineering here at PSU. We also have subscribers from PCC, from OHSU, and from the University of Washington. So what has been the value for us in being part of this group? First and foremost have been the valuable discussions with folks from other disciplines. The group has created a vehicle to lower the discussion barrier and provides a regular means to engage others. The group also provides encouragement for us to read and discuss a more diverse range of literature and methodology than we normally would individually. Second, and probably for those of us who mentor researchers, the group provides a very cross-disciplinary cohort for our postdocs, our graduate students, our post-baccalaureate researchers, and our undergraduates, all doing discipline-based education research. These researchers get to participate in an academically diverse group. They have the ability now to be mentored by individuals from other disciplines and will leave PSU with a more robust understanding of discipline-based education research beyond just their specific area. And last but not least are maybe the more tangible benefits. The group has provided us the ability to produce stronger collaborative grant proposals and manuscripts. In STEM education research, the strongest work that gets put forward are those being done by diverse research teams and studying cross-disciplinary issues. And this group has certainly set us up to be able to do that. So Ralph is here today, Aaron is here today. We would be glad to sit and talk with you about what our meetings look like, the types of projects we have done, that we are doing, including grant proposals and manuscripts. We'll be over here in this side as well, and we'd be glad to answer any questions then. Thank you.